Dear reader, come with me on a Christmas journey. Hello there folks, and happy winter tidings to you all. My name is Jen, and today we're going to take a dive into Dickens. You've probably heard me mention Christmas Carol a few times now, mostly this month. It is honestly one of my favorite books of all time, so I wanted to gush some more about this book as well as talk about my two favorite adaptations of this classic. So, tally-ho. A Christmas Carol was written by Charles Dickens in 1843. It is a classic tale of the old miser, Ebenezer Scrooge, as he is visited by three spirits set on showing him Christmases past, present, and future in the hopes of changing his heart. The Dickens family had been forced into a debtor's prison when Charles was a child, and he'd also had to stop his schooling a couple of times in order to earn money for his family. These experiences had a major effect on him and on the works that he later created. Christmas Carol is a reflection of that, considering certain lines throughout the book. For example, when Scrooge is in his counting house and is approached by two rich men wanting to collect donations for the poor, he has the following interaction with them. So Scrooge says to them that he wishes to be left alone. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there. Many can't go there, and many would rather die. If they would rather die, said Scrooge, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population. I mean, this shows Scrooge being a total dickhead, but it also highlights what was available at the time for those below the poverty line, which basically meant a lot of forced labor, prison, or death. This book really tries to address these issues, especially in the light of Christmas time, which, as quoted by Scrooge's nephew Fred, it is a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. The only time I know of in the long calendar of the year when men and women seem to by one consent open their shut-up hearts freely and to think of people below them as if they were really fellow passengers to the grave and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. Though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done me good and will do me good. And this is a large part of why this is such a favorite of mine, the message that Dickens was trying to send here about caring for your fellow humans, making it your duty to think of others, such as when the ghost of Jacob Marley, who was Scrooge's oldest friend and business partner, says that regrets having not tried to help people while he was alive and being now doomed to wander the earth, full of regret for what he could not do for other people. And Scrooge says to him that he was a good man of business, and Jacob responds with, business. Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. And just any time that I read that line or hear it in an adaptation or in an audiobook, it just gives me chills. Especially in light of this year when things have been so very, very tough. The need to actually think of other people and actually give a shit about something other than yourself, that is a message that some people need quite desperately. What I also really like about this book are the ghosts, because I am a spooky ghost story kind of gal, and also the humor. I find the humor to be particularly delightful, starting right off with the opening paragraph, in which Marley was dead to begin with. It says, old Marley was as dead as a doornail. And then Dickens has a paragraph which just talks about not knowing what is particularly dead about a doornail. And it's just, I don't know, it's a particular sense of humor that I really vibe with. And the descriptions throughout this book are just beautiful. Here is my favorite paragraph or my favorite chapter, which describes Christmas Day while Scrooge is walking around with the ghost of Christmas present. The poulterers' shops were still half open, and the fruiterers were radiant in their glory. There were great round, pot-bellied baskets of chestnuts, shaped like the waistcoats of jolly old gentlemen, lolling at the doors and tumbling out into the street in their apoplectic opulence. There were ruddy, brown-faced, broad-girthed Spanish onions, shining in the fatness of their growth like Spanish friars, and winking their shelves in wanton slyness at the girls as they went by, and glanced demurely at the hung-up mistletoe. There were pears and apples, clustered high in blooming pyramids. There were bunches of grapes made in the shopkeeper's benevolence to dangle from conspicuous hooks, that people's mouths might water gratis as they passed. There were piles of filberts, mossy and brown, recalling in their fragrance ancient walks among the woods and pleasant shufflings ankle-deep through withered leaves. There were Norfolk biffins, squat and swarthy, setting off the yellow of the oranges and lemons, and in the great compactness of their juicy persons, urgently entreating and beseeching to be carried home in paper bags and eaten after dinner. The very gold and silver fish set forth among these choice fruits in a bowl, though members of a dull and stagnant blooded race, appeared to know that there was something going on, and to a fish went gasping round and round their little world in slow and passionless excitement. It's so beautiful. And even though some of these things described in here are not in like my usual holiday celebrations, and I'm not sure if they're in modern American celebrations either, I had to look a couple of them up because what the hell even is a biffin? No matter, it still like reeks of Christmas. It still sounds incredibly cozy and warm, and I mean, apoplectic opulence? Those words together sound fucking great. So now that I've just quoted the book at you, like a whole bunch, let's talk about my two absolute favorite adaptations. The first, of course, is A Muppet Christmas Carol. It's a musical. There are Muppets being Muppets, and Michael Caine is a goddamn delight. The camera work on this movie, especially in the opening scenes, is just... And there's always a lot of things going on in the background, making it so even on like your 20th time or so watching it, you can still find something new going on. I honestly really adore Gonzo and Rizzo, so having them as the narrators, Gonzo is supposed to be Dickens in this, having them as the narrators through the film is a lot of fun. There are details that were changed in the interest of like time and whatnot, or just to fit things better, such as instead of just the ghost of Jacob Marley, there are two Marley brothers, Jacob and Robert, because they wanted them to be played by Statler and Waldorf. There's a little more about how Scrooge and Belle met, Belle being his ex-fiance, and they also chose to nix the scene with the two creepy kids under the robes of the ghost of Christmas present. The children represent creations of man, and they stand for both ignorance and want. And in the book, the ghost of Christmas present says that the boy is ignorance, the girl is want. And he says, beware them both, and all of their degree, but most of all beware this boy, for on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writing be erased. And so the changes that were made between the film and the book kind of make sense. In the interest of time, scenes were shortened, details were changed around a little bit, and I think they probably got rid of the creepy kids, possibly because of time, but also, I mean, it's possible that the concept that they represented might have been beyond like the normal small child. And also, if you do see it in an adaptation, like I believe that the animated one with Jim Carrey actually has that scene in it, it is kind of terrifying, and you know what, the final ghost is terrifying enough. Even with the changes, it still captures the gist of the book and the message behind it. The songs are also incredibly catchy and add to it in a wonderful way, which, by the way, the soundtrack is on Spotify. So, you know I've been listening to it since like December 1st. When the Muppets tackle a classic, they do it in their own quirky, hilarious way. If you've ever seen Muppet Treasure Island, that one's a fucking delight as well. So this was just a great take on it, and Michael Caine is one of the best Scrooges I've seen. So overall, if you have somehow gone through life without seeing this movie, I really highly recommend you watch it. My other favorite adaptation might be slightly more niche, possibly, but that is the Christmas Carol Christmas special of Doctor Who. It features the 11th Doctor, who is played by Matt Smith, and has appearances by his then companions Amy and Rory. If you don't know what Doctor Who is, quick summary. Doctor Who has been a British TV show since the 1960s about a humanoid alien from the planet Gallifrey who travels through time and space in a ship shaped like a police box, which is an old wooden call box that England used to use to call police to certain areas back in the day. If I have summarized that part correctly, if you are in the UK and you know more about that, please correct me. But that's basically the gist of what I understand about it. Anyway, he travels in a ship that is shaped like this and has many adventures, mostly with Earthling companions. It was off the air for a while and then came back like full force in about 2005. This special features Amy and Rory on a spaceship equivalent of a cruise ship, which is stuck in the violent clouds of a certain planet. They desperately need the sky to be put back to normal and the fog to be lifted so the ship can land safely. They call for help from their friend, the Doctor, who attempts to intervene and shut off the machine that is located on the planet. This machine has tamed the sky, i.e. kind of fucked it up. The old man Kazran, who owns the machine, is the only one who can operate it and absolutely refuses to shut it off. Because who cares if I think it's like 1,400 souls on board die? It's not his problem. The Doctor decides to Christmas carol him, which basically means travel back into Kazran's childhood to make more memories with him in the hopes of making him a kinder, more compassionate person in the present day. Of course, this is kind of unlike the actual classic, because there's like aliens and space and machinery stuff, very different. But there are similarities and references throughout that are just great, while at the same time being very Who-like. It's definitely a Moffat classic if you are a Doctor Who person. On this planet, mostly in this specific city, Catherine's family, starting with his cruel and abusive father, have what is called the surplus population, which are basically individuals cryogenically frozen as security until their families pay off debts owed to Catherine's family. One of these, of the surplus population, is a young woman named Abigail, who ends up featuring heavily in this episode. Catherine, of course, is representing Ebenezer Scrooge. The Doctor, Amy, and Rory are representing the three Christmas spirits, and Abigail represents Tiny Tim, as well as Belle. Catherine's father is, besides being a major asshole, he represents Scrooge's father, who it was hinted was terrible or possibly abusive in the book, and also potentially might represent the schoolmaster from his childhood as well. So basically, when they were writing this, they took the message behind the book and some pieces from the story and just kind of ran with it, but in a way that is all its own. There are little nuggets sprinkled throughout to please a Dickens fan, while at the same time be exciting to a Doctor Who fan, because there's the normal shenanigans and humor and action and great soundtrack and everything. It's just a really great time. And speaking of soundtrack, there is a song from it called Silence Is All You Know, or it might also be known as Abigail's song. It's really beautiful, and it just gives me chills whenever I hear it. I can't play it obviously in this episode, but in this video, but I'll leave a link to the song in the description box below. So I highly recommend the book as well as these adaptations I've mentioned. Note that there is also a stellar audiobook of Christmas Carol, which is read by Tim Curry, and his character voices are just fantastic. I hope you enjoyed this long rant about Christmas Carol. Let me know what your favorite adaptations are. And if there are any other books or movie adaptations you would like to hear me talk about, please let me know down below as well. In the interest of making mankind and the earth your business, please check out the links to various causes and charities in the description as well. Wishing you a very Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Blessed Yuletide, or just a very happy Friday in December. See you in the next video.